In the spotlight tonight is Jenny Dunn from Portsmouth, a revenue officer. Her specialist subject is the life and reign of Richard III. Tony Dauber from Chorley, a journalist. His is the history of Burnley Football Club. Don Young from Shaw, a retired teacher, and his subject is Homer's Odyssey. And Simon Surtees from London, an advice and guidance company manager whose subject is the films of Billy Wilder. Hello, I'm John Humphreys and welcome to Mastermind. You know the rules, 2 minutes on the specialist subject and then another 2 minutes on general knowledge. The clock rules. The winner of this round will go through to the next round with the possibility of a place in the finals and, who knows, the prospect of taking home the glass bowl inscribed with the title Mastermind. So, may I have our first contender, please? And your name is?
Jenny Dunn.
Your occupation?
Revenue officer.
And your chosen subject?
The life and reign of King Richard III.
Richard III in 2 minutes, starting now. 2 days before Edward IV's coronation, he elevated Richard and his brother George to which order of chivalry?
The Order of the Garter.
Knight of the Bath. On which hill overlooking Bosworth Field did Richard draw up his forces on the morning of the battle?
Ambion Hill.
Correct. Who was Henry Tudor's standard-bearer slain by Richard during his final desperate charge across Bosworth Field at Henry himself?
Sir John Cheney.
Sir William Brandon. In 1482, Richard led an army against the Scots, taking back which border stronghold that had been ceded to them by Queen Margaret?
Berwick-on-Tweed.
Correct. Which Archbishop of Canterbury crowned Richard and Anne at their joint coronation in Westminster Abbey in 1483?
Cardinal Bourchier.
Correct. When York pleaded financial hardship, Richard reduced the tolls the city had to collect each year as part of which fiscal obligation to the Crown?
Pass.
Which ceremony did Richard and Anne hold at York on 8th of September 1483?
Pass.
In 1484, Richard had Edward IV's former mistress, Jane Shaw, tried before an ecclesiastical court which sentenced her to do public penance before being interred in which London prison?
Pass.
At which castle did Richard first meet his lifelong friend, Francis Lovell?
Middleham Castle.
Correct. Which duke rode alongside Richard and Edward V when they entered London on the 4th of May, 1483?
Duke of Buckingham.
Correct. The night before the Battle of Bosworth Field, Richard set up his camp near which abbey?
Pass.
Which office of state did Richard bestow on John Howard, Duke of Norfolk, in June 1483?
Constable.
Earl Marshal of England. Following a failed uprising, the Duke of Buckingham was executed on November the 1st, 1483, in which city's marketplace?
Salisbury.
Correct. The head of which of Richard's brothers was exposed along with his father's over York's Micklegate Bar?
The Earl of Rutland, Edmund.
Correct. In 1470, Richard and Edward went into exile, staying with which governor? I've started, so I shall finish. Staying with which governor of Holland, whom Edward later created Earl of Winchester?
Lord of Groutous.
Correct. You had 4 passes, Jenny Dunn. The night before the Battle of Bosworth Field, Richard set up his camp near Merivale. The prison in which Edward IV's former mistress was locked up was Ludgate. The ceremony that Richard and Anne held at York was the investiture of the Prince of Wales, and when York pleaded financial hardship, Richard reduced the tolls as part of the fee farm obligation. You have, Jenny Dunn, 8 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Tony Dauber.
Your occupation?
He's a journalist.
And your chosen subject?
The history of Burnley Football Club.
Burnley Football Club, 2 minutes. Which team did Burnley beat 1-0 in 1914 to win the FA Cup final for the only time?
Liverpool.
Correct. Who is the only Burnley player to have won the Footballer of the Year award?
Jimmy McIlroy.
Jimmy Adamson, who was appointed the club's first manager in 1893, the team having previously been picked by committee?
Arthur Sutcliffe.
Correct. In 1924, a record attendance of 54,755 for Turf Moor was set at a third-round FA Cup match against which opponents?
Huddersfield Town.
Correct. Who did Burnley memorably beat 2-1 on the 9th of May 1987 to maintain their league status?
Orient.
Correct. Under whose managership did Second Division Burnley reach the 1947 FA Cup final, losing 1-0 to Charlton after extra time?
Cliff Britton.
Correct. The first floodlit match at Turf Moor was a friendly in 1957 against which opponents?
Pass.
When Burnley won the Division 1 title in 1921, how many points did they finish on?
62.
59. Jimmy McIlroy, regarded by many as the club's finest player, was signed for £8,000 from which club in 1950?
Glentoran.
Correct. At which ground did Burnley play for several months before transferring to Turf Moor in February 1883?
Caldervale.
Correct. In the 1962 FA Cup final, which Burnley player scored the 100th Wembley final goal?
Jimmy Robson.
Correct. To whom did Burnley lose in the 1967 quarter-final second leg of the Intercities Fairs Cup, the last European match played at Turf Moor?
Eintracht Frankfurt.
It was. Which player scored in both legs, helping to defeat Celtic in a 1978 Anglo-Scottish Cup tie?
Steve Kindon.
Correct. At which ground did Burnley win 2-1 to clinch the Division 1 title in the 1959-1960 season?
Main Road, Manchester City.
It was. Ian Moore, Burnley's first £1 million player, was signed from which club?
Stockport County.
Yes. Which club then in the Southern League beat Burnley 1-0 at Turf Moor in the third round of the FA Cup in January 1975?
Wimbledon.
Correct. Capped 20 times for England, which Burnley player was transferred to Manchester United for £56,000 in 1964?
Pass.
I can tell you it was John Connolly. You had a total of 2 passes. That was one of them. The other one was the first floodlit match at Turf Moor. It was a friendly against Blackburn Rovers in 1957. You have scored, Tony Dauber, 13 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Don Young,
Your occupation?
retired teacher,
And your chosen subject?
Homer's Odyssey,
Homer's Odyssey. Into how many books is the Odyssey divided?
24.
Correct. In both the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Greeks who fought at Troy are known by any of 3 collective names: the Achaeans, the Argives, and which other?
The Narns,
Correct. How long did Odysseus spend on Calypso's island, an unwilling lover alongside lover, all too willing?
7 years.
Correct. There are 2 characters called Ajax in the Odyssey. One, described as the greater Ajax, is the son of Telamon. Of whom is the other, the lesser Ajax, the son?
Oiocles,
Oileus. What was the occupation of Eumenius, with whom Odysseus, originally described as a beggar, stayed when he returned to Ithaca?
swineherd,
Correct. Who in Book 8 of the Odyssey is named as the maker of the wooden horse?
Epius,
Correct. Which race of giant cannibals did Odysseus and his men encounter after they were forced to leave the island of Aeolus?
Lystrigonians,
Correct. From where was Poseidon returning when he saw Odysseus on his journey from Calypso's island blowing up a storm which shipwrecked the sailor?
the Ethiopians,
Yes. Prior to turning them into swine, Circe fed Odysseus's men a drug-laced potion of cheese, barley and honey mixed with which type of wine?
Samnium wine,
Correct. Despite dire warnings, on which island did Odysseus's crew insist on landing, sealing their fate there by slaughtering the cattle of the sun god Helios?
Phoenicia,
Correct. At which secluded harbour, named after an old god of the sea, did Odysseus land on his return to Ithaca?
Phorcys,
Correct. What was the mortal name of the daughter of Cadmus, who, as the sea goddess Leucothea, tried to help Odysseus after he was shipwrecked?
Ino,
Correct. As part of his cunning plan to escape the clutches of the Cyclops called Polyphemus, Odysseus told him that he was known by what name?
nobody,
Correct. Theseus, the bard, was one of the 2 people spared the slaughter in the hall of Penelope's suitors. What was the occupation of Medon, the other man spared?
he was a herald,
Correct. What was the name of the daughter of the king of Phaeacia who discovered the naked Odysseus? I'll finish the question. After he had been shipwrecked?
Nausicaa,
Correct. Dong Young, you had no passes there. You scored 14 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Simon Surtees.
And your occupation?
I'm an advice and guidance company manager.
And your chosen subject?
The films of Billy Wilder.
Billy Wilder in 2 minutes starting now. Which 1942 film starring Ray Milland and Ginger Rogers marked Billy Wilder's debut as a director in the United States?
The Major and the Minor.
Correct. Wilder won 2 Academy Awards for Best Director for The Apartment and which other picture?
The Lost Weekend.
Correct. The screenplay for Double Indemnity was co-written by Wilder and which writer of
Raymond
crime fiction? Raymond Chandler. Correct. Which Austrian-born film director took the role of Field Marshal Rommel in Wilder's 1943 film Five Graves to Cairo?
Erich von Stroheim.
Correct. Which of Wilder's films opens with a shot of a bullet-ridden corpse floating in a swimming pool?
Sunset Boulevard.
Correct. In the award-winning Lost Weekend, what is the name of the alcoholic writer played by Ray Milland?
Pass.
What completes the name of the all-girl band in Some Like It Hot, Sweet Sue and her
Syncopated Rhythm Girls.
Society Syncopators? In Sunset Boulevard, the aging silent movie star Norma Desmond offers a destitute writer the chance to write a script for her return in which role?
Salome.
Correct. An official deputation of United States politicians on an investigative visit to post-war Berlin provided the basis for which 1948 film?
Foreign Affair.
Correct. In 1936, with which screenwriter and later producer did Wilder strike up a successful partnership that was to last 12 years?
Arthur Hornblow.
Charles Brackett. Under what title was the 1966 picture The Fortune Cookie released in the United Kingdom?
Meet Whiplash Willie.
It was. In which of Wilder's films did the Loch Ness Monster make an appearance?
The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes.
Correct. Teaming up with Wilder for the first time on the 1957 film Love in the Afternoon, which Romanian-born screenwriter formed a long and successful partnership with him?
I.A.L. Diamond.
Correct. Played by Gil Stratton, what was the name of the character in the film Stalag 17 who also acted as narrator?
Joe Gillis.
Cookie. Which composer and conductor wrote the scores for 1, 2, 3, Kiss Me Stupid, Irma la Douce and The Fortune Cookie?
Andre Previn.
It was. Early in her movie career, which future Academy Award winner appeared as Peggy Grant in the 1974 film The Front Page?
Pass.
You could have taken a stab at it, it wouldn't have mattered, but anyway, it was Susan Sarandon. And you had 2 passes, including that one. The other was in that award-winning film Lost Weekend. It was Don Burnham, the character played by Ray Milland. Simon Surtees, you have 11 points.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of our first round, specialist subject. So let's have a look at the scores now. In 4th place on 8 is Jenny Dunn. 3rd place on 11, Simon Surtees. In 2nd place on 13, Tony Dauber. Just in the lead with 14 points, Don Young. So we move to our general knowledge round now, and here, if there is a tie at the end of the round, then the number of passes will be taken into account, and the contender with the fewest passes will be declared the winner. If there's still a tie on points, then there'll be a 5-question playoff. So, on with the round, and let me first ask Jenny Dunn again, please. And you scored 8 points with Richard III, who, if we are to believe most accounts, was a thoroughly nasty guy, but you don't believe that.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't go to the extreme of saying that he was anything like a saint, but...
well, not many were they?
No.
I mean, your average
exactly.
king in those days was...
I think he was fairly average compared with most of his contemporaries, to be perfectly honest.
So why did he get such a bad press?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, the Tudors have got a lot to answer for there, but I
Because
don't
he
know.
was the last of the Plantagenets, or whatever he was,
Well,
wasn't he?
yeah. Obviously, Henry VII had to try and justify his taking over of the throne, so I suppose...
So he rubbished him a wee bit,
well,
probably.
he and his sort of cohorts.
Yeah. Well, we shall see how your general knowledge is. 8 points, as I say, you start with. Let's see how you do with your general knowledge. 2 minutes, starting now. Who was the first Conservative leader not to fight a general election since Chamberlain in the 1920s?
Pass.
In classical mythology, Tisiphone, the avenger of blood, Alecto, the unceasing in anger, and Megaera, the jealous one, were collectively known as what?
The Furies.
Correct. With which battle, where the Scots were heavily defeated by the English, is the lament Flowers of the Forest particularly associated?
Flodden Field.
Correct. The Age of Reason, The Reprieve, and Iron in the Soul are the English titles of the 3 volumes of which work by Jean-Paul Sartre?
Pass.
The government official whose proper title is Parliamentary Secretary of the Treasury is better known by what name?
No, pass.
Which early form of man is named after the place in the Dordogne where ancient human skeletons were found in a cave?
Cro-Magnon.
Correct. Which Lithuanian-born American singer and actor popularised the songs Swanee and Toot Toot Tootsie?
Al Jolson.
Correct. Which Scottish architect's works include the Glasgow School of Art and the Cranston Tea Rooms?
Oh, Charles Rennie Mackintosh.
Yes. Whose first novel, Saturday Night and Sunday Morning, tells of a Nottingham factory worker who refuses to conform?
Pass.
What is the name of the archipelago off the southern extremity of South America, which is owned partly by Chile and partly by Argentina?
Tierra del Fuego.
Correct. Which 18th century English painter and engraver produced the series of 8 paintings entitled A Rake's Progress?
Hogarth.
Correct. Which species of penguin was named after the wife of the 19th century French Antarctic explorer Jules Sébastien Dumont d'Urville?
The Adelie penguin.
Correct. In children's literature, whose best friends are Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger?
Harry Potter.
Correct. On which island did Paul Gauguin live from 1891 to 93, returning there for the final time in 1895?
Tahiti.
Correct. Said to have been first marketed by the Scots-born Californian farmer David Jacks in 1882. What is Monterey Jack?
It's a cheese.
It is indeed a cheese, and you just got that in. You had 4 passes. Alan Sillitoe wrote Saturday Night and Sunday Morning, as you know. That Parliamentary Secretary of the Treasury is better known as the Chief Whip.
Oh,
the government's
yeah.
Chief Whip, that is. The Age of Reason, etc. Reprieve and so on. Jean-Paul Sartre's The Roads to Freedom. And the first you'll kick yourself, Chris.
I will,
The first
yeah.
Conservative leader not to fight a general election, Chamberlain, Ian Duncan Smith.
Yeah, oh, I couldn't think of his name.
You knew the answer without the name. There we are. You had 8 points to begin with. You now have, Jenny Dunn, 19 points. And now Simon Surtees, please. And you are in with Billy Wilder at 11 points. A very competent director. Great director?
Yes, a great director, I think. I think of all the great Hollywood directors, he was probably the best because he co-wrote all his films. And I think he made about 6 films which would be uncontestable masterpieces.
And you'd include in those?
Well, The Apartment, Some Like It Hot, Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, 4 outstanding films which any director working in Hollywood would have been proud to make, especially to have created the dialogue in the way that he did.
Well, you scored 11 points with Billy Wilder. Let's see how you do with general knowledge. 2 minutes starting now. Which worker among the poor of Calcutta was beatified by the Pope in October 2003 in the first stage to making her a saint?
Mother Teresa.
Correct. In the United States, they're astronauts. In the former Soviet Union, cosmonauts. In which country are they taikonauts?
China.
Correct. Which historic region of Eastern Europe was part of Hungary for most of the period from the 11th century until 1918 when it was incorporated into Romania?
Prussia.
Transylvania. Defend the children of the poor and punish the wrongdoer is the inscription taken from the Book of Psalms over one of the entrances to which London building?
British Museum.
The Old Bailey, Central Criminal Court. Which of Shakespeare's comedies is set in Messina in Sicily?
Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Much Ado About Nothing. Which character from classical mythology gives his name to the term used in psychoanalysis to describe excessive self-esteem?
Pass.
Which actor born Anthony Robert Macmillan in Rutherglen near Glasgow in 1950 took his stage name from a jazz saxophonist whom he greatly admired?
Pass.
Which writer's experiences in the South Seas on board the whaler Acushnet in the early 1840s formed the basis of his first novel, Typee?
Joseph Conrad.
Herman Melville. The Blue Mountains, part of the Great Dividing Range, lie in which Australian state?
New South Wales.
Correct. Manuel II, deposed in 1910, was the last king of which European country?
Pass.
Who composed the waltz Morgenblätter, meaning morning papers, for a Vienna press ball?
Johann Strauss.
It was. In football, what is the surname of the brothers who in 1996 became the first since the Charltons to play in a full football international for England?
Pass.
Which Lennon and McCartney song contains the line, "The movement you need is on your shoulder"?
Yesterday.
Hey Jude. In which country was the pianist and conductor Daniel Barenboim born?
Israel.
Argentina. In which cult film did David Kessler, I've started so I shall finish, in which cult film did David Kessler change into a werewolf to the strains of Creedence Clearwater Revival's Bad Moon Rising?
An American Werewolf in London.
Indeed it was. You had 4 passes there. The brothers who played in that football international were Gary and Phil Neville. Manuel II was deposed as the last king of Portugal. The actor-born Anthony Robert Macmillan became Robbie Coltrane, and it was Narcissus who we were looking for in classical mythology,
Yeah.
of course you say. Simon Surtees, you had 11 points. You now have a total of 16 points.
Thank you.
And now Tony Dorber, please. So, running a close second at the moment with 13 points from Burnley Football Club.
Correct,
I
yeah.
take it you're a fan as well as knowledgeable about them?
32 years, yeah.
32 years. You and Alistair Campbell.
Sir Alistair,
Not quite yet, but entirely possible, I grant you.
if he's got anything to do with it.
If he's got anything. No, I didn't say that. It is terribly difficult, isn't it, for a small town club in this day and age of Super League football to break in again into the very top reaches.
It's getting more difficult every year, and it's we've virtually no chance of breaking into the top bracket of the Premiership. The best we can hope for is getting into the Premiership and maybe sticking there for 2 or 3 years, because I mean the population of the town's only sort of 80,000, so we can only call on perhaps 20,000, 25,000 at most. So unless we have a big backer, then we're just unable to compete.
Well, it's simple, isn't it? You go and find a Russian billionaire. And
Yeah, well,
you win a few games.
Alistair must know 1 or 2.
Have a word with him the next time you see him. Well, you scored 13 points with your favourite team. So let's see how you do with general knowledge. 2 minutes. Geckos are a mainly nocturnal and insectivorous family of which reptile?
Lizards.
Correct. Who, when he finished the New York Marathon in November 2003, completed 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days, a few months after undergoing heart bypass surgery?
Ranulph Fiennes.
Correct. What's the name of the coloured diaphragm behind the cornea of the eye with an adjustable circular opening in its centre?
Iris.
Correct. Which TV sitcom focused on the life of Jacko, a Jack the lad who worked for Lionel Bainbridge's, a small painting and decorating company?
Brushstrokes.
Correct. The prickly pear is the edible fruit of a member of which plant family?
Pass.
In the poem by Tennyson, for which of King Arthur's knights did the Lady of Shalott have an unrequited love?
Galahad.
Lancelot. Naxos is the largest of which group of Greek islands that form a rough circle round Delos?
Peloponnese.
Cyclades. The plot of which novel by Frederick Forsyth is concerned with the attempted assassination of Charles de Gaulle?
The Day of the Jackal.
Correct. Which seabird is sometimes called a Mother Carey's chicken?
Storm Petrel.
Correct. In Major League Baseball, which American city do the Indians team come from?
Cleveland.
Correct. German-born photographer Wolfgang Tillmans won which prestigious art award in November 2000?
Pass.
What name was given by ancient Roman writers to the area of northern Britain beyond Roman control, roughly corresponding to modern Scotland?
Hibernia.
Caledonia. Which king united the houses of York and Lancaster by marrying Elizabeth of York, the daughter of Edward IV?
Pass.
Born around 1570, the Dutch spectacle maker Hans Lippershey is one of those credited with the invention of which optical instrument?
Contact lens.
Telescope. Which British Foreign Secretary committed suicide in 1822 because he thought he was being blackmailed for homosexual acts?
Pass.
What name was given in classical times to various prophetesses, the most famous of whom was the Cumaean described by Virgil in the Aeneid?
Fates.
Sybil. Which 1968 film starred Beryl Reid as the heroine of a TV soap opera and Susanna York as her lover?
Pass.
It was The Killing of Sister George. You had 5 passes altogether. The British Foreign Secretary who committed suicide was Viscount Castlereagh. The King who united the houses of York and Lancaster was Henry VII. The German-born photographer won the Turner Prize, and the prickly pear is a member of the cactus family. 5 passes, you had 13 points. Tony Dorber, you now have 20 points. And now Don Young, if he would, please. And 14 points puts you in the lead at that stage on Homer's Odyssey, Mr. Young. We don't know that much about the Odyssey, do we? I mean, we don't even know for sure that Homer wrote it all.
There's very much we don't know who wrote it all, or indeed some people, separatists, feel that the Iliad and the Odyssey were written by different people. Some ancient scholars feel the Odyssey finished in Book 23 and the Book 24 is a later edition and not as good.
Because they were written over, or they may have been written over a very, very long period.
Exactly.
Centuries.
Centuries. Again, the question is, were they written or were they oral tradition?
Well, you did very well. You got 14 points. Let's see how you do with general knowledge. Which principality has a land border only with mainland France?
Monaco.
Correct. Born in Beaufort, South Carolina in 1944, which world heavyweight boxing champion had the nickname Smoking Joe?
Joe Frazier.
Correct. What completes the proverbial quote from Matthew chapter 26, verse 41, the spirit indeed is willing,
but the flesh is weak.
Correct. Which British director's films include Dr. Zhivago and Ryan's Daughter?
David Lean.
Correct. Who succeeded Lord Carrington as Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs in 1982, being dismissed after the 1983 general election?
Francis Pym.
Correct. Derived from the Middle English for burning stone, what was the old name for sulphur?
Brimstone.
Correct. Which former army officer was Prime Minister of Egypt from 1954 to 6 and its president from 56 to 70?
Nasser.
Correct. Which Baltic port was established as a free city under the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 and later annexed by Germany in September 1939?
Gdansk.
It was. Which stately home was built on land bought by Sir William Cavendish in 1549 for £600 by the River Derwent in Derbyshire?
Chatsworth House.
Correct. Which Sir Walter Scott novel opens with an account of the Porteous riots which took place in Edinburgh in 1736?
Ivanhoe.
Heart of Midlothian. Operation Mercury was the code name for the German airborne invasion of which Greek island in May 1941?
Rhodes.
Crete. The Vedas are the holy scriptures of which religion?
Hinduism.
Correct. Which fictional doctor discovered a drug by means of which he can create a separate identity for himself that absorbs all his evil instincts?
Dr. Jekyll.
Correct. The playing surface of which indoor sport is divided into 3 areas known as the defending zone, the neutral zone and the attacking zone?
Ice hockey.
Correct. Which American president was known as the Great Communicator?
Ronald Reagan.
He was. 4 of the first 5 moons discovered orbiting which planet are named after Shakespearean characters?
Uranus.
Correct. Which whale has a large single tusk which can grow to nearly 3 metres in length, possibly giving rise to the legend of the unicorn?
The narwhal.
The narwhal it was. And no passes again. Only a couple wrong. 14 points the first time around. A winning 29 points, Don Young.
Thank you.
So, at the end of that round, the end of the contest, let's look at the scores. In 4th place with 16 points, Simon Surtees. 3rd place with 19 points, Jenny Dunn. 2nd place with 20 points, Tony Dauber. Clear winner in 1st place with 29 points, Don Young. Which means, of course, that Don Young goes through to the next round and moves a step closer to becoming our Mastermind champion. Congratulations to him. Please join us next time for more Masterminds. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
The story of a heroic little boat next on BBC Two in Britain's Heritage Heroes.